You believed in the ways of peace and balance and everything else. That's who you were. But that was not how you lived. So you were at war with yourself. Who you were versus how you ended up behaving. You did not like what you were doing, but you felt like you had no choice. You felt like this was the only way. Normally, I would take this time to explain to you the process of how this works, but since you and I are well familiar with how this works, I am not going to do that. Okay, I'm going to show you my cards. Tell you straight off the get-go, I don't know what this says. So let me get some other cards. You have the weaver in the thinking category and the mind category. A weaver is someone who puts together different ideas, different threads, creates beauty, makes something new. Two of spirals is all about choices. Oh, wow. Yeah, life and death choices. Because you have the two of spirals, and you have the death connected to it. So it feels like this is someone who has the power of life and death. Okay, we're looking at a past life. You were the advisor. Okay, you were a scribe. And within your hands was the power of life and death, which is an unusual power for a scribe to have. Scribes don't typically possess that power. Typically, they're just there to record things, to record the decisions made by somebody else. But you had a power beyond that of just writing down information. You actually possessed power as well. Your role in that life was to be support, the companion of somebody very, very, very powerful. That was why you came into that life. You came into that life to be somebody else's support system. You began to take over their responsibility and their role and their power. You began to slowly but surely usurp them, undermine them. It was like a power grab. You were losing track of who and what you were and why you had come. And you started wanting to be the ruler and not just the scribe for the ruler. It was somebody powerful, and you began to usurp their power. And you did it through your role as the scribe. You just started deciding who lived and who died. Oh my goodness. Okay. I got a sudden vision of the Catholic Church and of you working with the Catholic Church for like a pope or a bishop or somebody with churchly powers, and you were usurping the bishop or the pope. I don't know. You began usurping their role. You began undermining them by what you were writing. It was not matching what they were saying, but because you were trusted, you were able to get away with it. This is fascinating. I'm going to interpret this card differently than I've ever interpreted it before. You were capable of presenting yourself in any way the other person needed you to present yourself. You were a man of many faces. You were a man of many facades. You were constantly remaking yourself so as to move up in power. This is like the innocence. You're presenting yourself as though you're innocent and all good and all light, but all these mirrors were just false images of who you were. None of them were reflecting the real person that you were. You were constantly changing yourself in order to manipulate certain outcomes, and you felt justified in it. You believed yourself to be in the right. You believed that you were doing God's work, that you were correcting mistakes that were being made by the people in power. You believed in your cause and what you were doing. I don't know how that fits into this. Does any of this feel or ring true to you?
I don't recognize it right now. Again, it's a past life. And
This is confounding me. this doesn't fit into this overall picture. It doesn't feel like it should be there, but it is. And I don't know how that's, I just get the sense that you saw yourself as righteous. You saw yourself as doing a really, really good thing. You really believed in what you were doing. And the ends justified the means sort of idea. I'm going to get another card and see what's going on with that. Yeah, see, there it is. You felt like you were justice. See that justice?
Yes.
Really interesting to me. You believe the ends justified the means, and what I'm wanting to say, I don't want to say, but it's feeling like you were consorting with, I want to say witches. You were consorting with, but that isn't the right feel. That's not the right word. It's like you were consorting with people who are engaged in practices contrary to the church. Now that feels right. They were involved, these were people who were practicing spiritual practices that were in opposition to the church itself. But you did it because you believe the ends justified the means, and they were an end. Oh, wow, we're going way back in history here. Okay, I'm going to take a picture of this. I think I know where we're going now. I mean, really, we're going far back in history. You were consorting with people that were not in alignment with the church. But you did it because you believe the ends justified the means. You were a scribe. Oh, I'm getting the sense that you were somebody who was subverting the church. You were subverting the church on the cause of maybe a different theological position that you possessed, or maybe even a different religion. It's feeling like we're talking, the time of, I'm sensing this was the time of like 300s, and it feels like Rome 300s, and the time of persecution of all those different religious groups as they're trying to bring everybody into alignment with the one Roman Empire church. Oh, that's Debbie, it's feeling like
the time of Constantine.
yes, it does. It feels like the time of Constantine. Okay, I'm getting chills now. You were battling the Roman Empire's attempt to pull Christianity into its clutches. Oh, wow. But I don't know if you were the good guy or the bad guy. I haven't got a clue. And I don't know if it really matters because you believed in your cause.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most important thing. Whether or not what you did would be considered ethical or unethical really isn't the point, because you believed in what you were doing and you were subverting power. You were subverting the Pope or the formation of the Roman Catholic Church. Or, okay, I need more clarification. More details, more details. I need more details. Okay, what I'm picking up is you were part of the group that was, interestingly enough, Debbie, you were part of the group devoted to peace and knowledge. I find it very interesting that after having described the willingness to remake yourself in any way in order to manipulate situations and to create opportunities for yourself and power for yourself, I find it very interesting that this is saying that you were a man, nonetheless devoted to the ways of peace, but you didn't feel like you had a choice. You saw everything you believed in being destroyed and trampled on like it was trash. But you were a man of peace. You were a man of knowledge. You were educated. You were highly educated, but you felt like you didn't have a choice in the way in which you were living and in things you were doing, because everything you knew and believed and loved was being trampled on. And you saw the destruction of what you most valued. And so you felt like you had to do something. That's why you did it. You believed in the ways of peace and balance and everything else. That's who you were. But that was not how you believed you were allowed to live. So I see where the karma is coming up. You were at war with yourself. Who you were versus how you ended up behaving because of what you were seeing happening to your people, your belief system, your religious sect, whatever it was. You were at war with yourself as well. You did not like what you were doing. You did not like yourself, but you felt like you had no choice. You felt like this was the only way. And that creates karma. Because when you pass over after having lived a life like that, if I had only done this instead, if I had tried that method instead, I think next time I go and I live again, I want to try that same scenario, but I want to try doing it this way instead. I want to try it doing that way instead. I want to know if I can face the same type of scenario again, but make better choices the next time. Make better choices that don't destroy me as a person in my pursuit of what I believe to be the right way. That was where I didn't get a single karma card, but I know that was where your karma came from.
Wow.
It was an internal, you were behaving one way, but you were actually another type of person. You were acting contrary to who and what you were. You were a man of peace and knowledge, but you were acting with subterfuge and dishonesty and consorting with, I feel like, reprobates. You were consorting with people that were contrary to what you believed as well, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of thing going on.
Okay.
It was a big moral dilemma for you. And it really, I believe it caused karma. I'm going to see if I get the karma cards because I believe that's what this is telling me. This is where your karma, where you started to accumulate karma because you wanted to try this sort of scenario again when you passed over. You wanted to try it again, but you wanted to see if next time you could do it better. Next time you could make it, you could make better choices. Yeah, looky there. All the life experiences in the thought category, and you've got the hanged man, and there's the artist. Oh, I'm starting to know what kind of a scribe you were. I'm getting it. You were writing the biblical text scribes, one of the people that do the Bible texts, and the words that you choose and the way that you say the words makes all the difference in one sect versus another sect. And so if you choose one choice of a word and that is against the Roman Catholic Church's doctrine, that in and of itself can create a war, persecution. So I'm not sure that feels kind of sort of right, but not quite.
Well, that creates theology.
It does. It creates theology, and then the theology creates the wars,
Mm-hmm.
war over words. It almost feels like a little bit like forgeries, but not forgeries, because in that era it wasn't considered forgeries to write letters and ascribe it to a certain person or another person.
Yeah, that's that was common
That was
practice.
common practice. So, but you were doing it on behalf of the Pope or the Roman Catholic Church. You were writing some of these because the Pope wanted you to create letters that supported the theology of the church. But like I said, you were undermining him. I don't know how this was working. It was very convoluted. This was all about games of words, but real consequences. People were dying. Okay, so we've got six of spirals and the Celtic owl. Six of spirals represents life choices, lives, and the hanged man or the Celtic owl represents protecting something really precious to you. I assume it had to do with this here, the knowledge and the peace. There's a part of you that you are protecting and you're trying to keep it safe, but you had all this stuff that you were doing and all the ways you were behaving. Yeah, the artist, and that's something that has to do with the scrolls. You were an artist and how you were manipulating the texts, how you were writing the words, how you were expressing, you were pretending compliance. You were playing with the words to make it seem as though you're complying with what the Pope wants you to say, but in fact, you were undermining. I'm not sure it's the Pope, but bishop or somebody of importance like that in the church. You were an artist. You were very good at what you were doing. And it had to do with writing those scrolls. And you're doing it all trying to protect your own people and your own belief systems and everything, but it doesn't feel like it was working at all. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So then you gave up so much against your own morals and ethics and everything to try and undermine the Pope. And it doesn't feel like it actually was successful in the way that you intended it to be. Instead, what happens is I see this where in the end, it just brought a lot of karma with it when you passed over. You brought all this karma with you. Didn't achieve what you wanted at all. This life was about not being true to self, defending what you believed in, but in so doing, you kind of destroyed your own soul in the process because you violated your own principles. And then you didn't even succeed, done so much damage to yourself in service to a cause that you really truly believed in. It didn't work, and that caused a lot of karma that has carried over in your lives. This is an astounding reading.
Well, one of the big arguments that I remember early on was the deity of Jesus.
Yeah.
A lot of people, hundreds, if not thousands, died in the argument between the
Right.
deity of Jesus.
Right.
You had the camp that said he's God, and the other camp that said he's not God, but maybe, son of God or whatever. But I think that was more in the 1100s when that happened.
Yeah, but that really was, it feels like that war of words, it did cost a lot of lives, and you were right in the middle of all that stuff. And you were trying so hard, but despite all your attempts, it didn't succeed in what you wanted it to do. So you carried over the feeling of failure. You carried over the feeling of inadequacy and the feelings of failure and the feelings of not being good enough, feelings of my best isn't good enough, my best wasn't good enough. That was all carried over past lives. That's a heavy burden to carry over. And it's interesting to me because typically when it comes to karma, we choose the karma we're going to carry over into our next life. We decide we're going to carry this over or that over because we feel like we can learn from it, or there's something that's really beneficial to us. But this doesn't feel like there was as much choice in carrying this over. You were so burdened by how you destroyed yourself for a failed cause. And it almost doesn't feel like you had much of a choice in whether you were going to carry those feelings with you into another life. You as a soul were determined you were going to get it right. You were going to succeed. You were going to make it right. You were going to do this, and you were going to do it right. That's how it turned out in the karma. Okay, let's go. Let's see what aspects of that karma or spirit journey carried into your life today. Dirty laundry all over again. It has to be vomited up. And the things that have to be vomited up is low self-worth, the feeling of not being in control of yourself, feeling as though everything is bombarding you all at once, your karma stuff that you carried over from the spirit realm. You carried over low self-worth, issues about manipulation and being in control or not control, because you were the manipulator before. You were trying to manipulate situations. You were becoming false personas. You were doing all those things in order to get what you wanted out of life. And so you carried that over into this life, issues that have to do with control and manipulation and stress. Lots and lots of pressure and stress, the feeling of everything coming at you at once, feeling like you want to run, you're afraid, you're scared, you just all this stuff. This is what you carried over from the spirit: inadequacy, inferiority, failure, not being in control, being manipulated, and lots of feelings of being chased by something, or maybe a little bit of paranoia, just that feeling of I have all these things coming at me, being overwhelmed. And what this is telling you, this is all in your mind. The dragon is showing you could throw this up. You don't have to hang on to it. All these experiences in your current life that were a result of all of this, you can get rid of it. That you don't have to carry it any longer. You can start getting rid of it. Did you have any questions for me?
No, it absolutely resonates.
Yeah. Okay. Next steps. You've been carrying this for many, many lives. The issues that were posted here are from your life back in Roman times. So that means in all the lives since then, you've been carrying all of those issues into your lives, impacting how you experienced life ever since. Okay. So let's look at next steps. Of course, that's what it is. A brand new mirror. Death card. Yeah. This one's a pretty clear one too. These are next steps. Ace of Mirrors. You have to start recognizing that you are not who you were, that you are a new person. This is a new life. Look in the mirror and see yourself as you truly are, not who you thought you were, not who you brought over from past lives. You have to see yourself as you truly and genuinely are. And for that, you need to die to those old beliefs, die to those old ways of reacting and responding. You need to recognize that those were past lives. Those past lives no longer need to continue. You need to let them go. You need to let them die. That karma, you need to let it go. It has to die because you here, it says here, the next step is to see yourself brand new.
Yep.
See yourself brand new. And for that to happen, you have to let that old belief system, that old karma die. And here it says you have the Two of Scrolls, which indicates you are truly given a choice. You have the choice. You don't have to continue with that karma. You have two scrolls. They are unrolling. That means there's choices. Whenever you get two, it means there's a choice. The unrolling of the scrolls means you have the choice to write a new journey, write a new path for yourself, or to continue on the path that you were on before. But you have the choice. You decide which one of these scrolls is going to be fully unrolled. Are you going to let the old karma and all the old issues die? Or are you going to see yourself brand new? Spirit says it's your choice. You can do either one. But this feels like you've been pre-programmed per se to let it go. That this is the end of that cycle. This is the last time you're going to have to live with the karma of that life from the early hundreds. This feels like it's setting you free, and it wants you to be set free. It's unrolling the scrolls for a new contract, a new life experience, a new journey. So your next step, though, is to see yourself brand new and finally just let all the old stuff go. Let it die. It's no longer who you are. It's no longer who you need to be. The scroll has already been written for you to live a new way and a new life. You just have to accept it. You just have to believe it and walk in it.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. That kind of reinforces a lot of information coming through. Yeah, the Ace of Mirrors and letting stuff go, seeing through the illusions, seeing myself who I truly am. Yeah. Yeah. Writing another story.
Writing another story for yourself, but you have to let go. I mean, death. You have to let go of all that old karma.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I am rather stunned to discover that pretty much all the lives you've lived since then have been under that influence of that karma it was very damaging to you, that because you really, really violated everything you believed in order to what you thought save your group or your belief system or whatever. You gave everything. You gave your entire being to this cause at the expense of your own sense of self, and it didn't work. You still failed.
Mm,
That's a hard thing to recover from.
wow. Now I wonder how I died in that life. Did they find out who I was and sacrifice me? What did they do?
Okay, let me see if the cards will tell. Sometimes they do.
Maybe I was never discovered, but maybe I was discovered and they executed me. I mean,
Okay,
how
so
did I exit?
I got three cards. Okay, now I did up cards. Well, first card indicates, although you were afraid, see the monkey there? It's a fear.
Mm-hmm.
Though there was some fear there, you actually continued to do this your whole life. What you were doing, you continued doing it your whole life because you believed in it. You continued to swing. You continued to do all the manipulations and everything else to try and save your group. What I'm getting, it's very surprising. I'm getting an image. You actually were buried in an ossuary in an unknown grave.
Mm. So it sounds like they didn't discover my
No,
deceit.
no, it doesn't sound like that was ever discovered.
I must have played my part well. Mm.
You were buried in an ossuary.
Wouldn't that be unhonorable?
Well, no,
Because they've got the weeds there.
yeah, you were put in an unknown area. You may have been honored by your own people, but it doesn't feel like that. What it feels like happened, you had some loyal friends and family that made sure that you were buried properly. You just buried someplace out of the way, you weren't put in a place of prestige.
Mm.
You were just put in the ground somehow or other. An unknown, it just feels like an unknown grave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like you died of natural causes from the looks of it.
Okay.
But it also feels like you lived long enough to see. This is the part that is getting to me. It's like I look at this and I really get the sense you lived long enough to see your efforts fail.
Mm.
And I feel like you died with great sadness and defeat. You felt defeated and you felt sad. And there just wasn't a lot of people left to take care of you when you did die. Just wasn't many of you left. It's a very violent time. There's a feeling, I'm trying to put words to it, but I'm really struggling to find the words. You felt lost towards the end of your life. You just felt really, really lost. Like you had spent your whole life for this, and then it just crashed down all around you, and there was no one left to comfort you. You were alone. It's like this sense of, "Oh, I did all of this stuff. I tried so hard, and now all my people are gone. All my hopes and dreams are gone, and I don't even have the solace of a life well lived. I just feel bitterness and regret." Very sad ending. And I don't think he lived to be old either. He feels like he died maybe in his 50s. He doesn't feel like he lived to be old. I think the sadness just consumed him. There's this consuming sense of, I failed. They're gone. They're all gone. That kind of feeling is just a
Mhm.
horrible. It's a really a feeling of being lost, really lost. And that's kind of what I got for this. Very sad.
Okay. Well, that makes sense because wouldn't that carry the karma?
Yeah. Yeah. He lost himself and lost all those he loved, and just nothing left. There was nothing left to live for after that point. Wow.
Well, that was interesting.
That was yeah, that was a little depressing actually.
Yeah, to think to carry that burden into life after life after life. Wow. Isn't that interesting? And I keep envisioning the head popping out of that tree when we were talking about karma
Mhm.
with our group, and you had the guy with all the karmas,
Mhm.
card with all the karmas, and then the one next to it had the head popping out of the tree, and you were saying that, that one was
Ready to be.
revealing it, ready to, yeah, ready to be revealed, and yeah, let go. So maybe that's the one it was.
Yeah.
It's kind of the connection. I'm putting those two pieces together. That's the karma that's presenting itself and saying, I'm done. I'm done. Here I
Mhm.
am. See me, let's deal with it and
Wow.
call it done. Wow. Yeah, that was a wow. I didn't see that. Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get when you're doing these things.
Yeah, I'm still a little conflicted as to what exactly you were doing in terms of your forgeries and stuff. I'm still a little conflicted because there was like I said, it was a power grab, but it was a power grab through like writing letters, and attributing it to John or Matthew or whatever maybe, or writing, I don't know, whichever side of the fence you were on then. But
Yeah.
writing the letter, doing the forgery on behalf of the church, but not doing it the way they said, and then sending it out. That was really risky.
There was a lot of illiteracy back then. Even the bishops and all those guys, the people were, the regular population was illiterate. And so those that did have an education, those that could read and write, they really were the ones carrying the power because nobody else, if they couldn't read or write, nobody else knew what was actually in that letter. And the people that were then carrying the letters around, how many of them didn't really even know what the letter said
Yeah.
until somebody who was literate could read it.
So I didn't say it during the course of the reading, but the group that I kept associating you with, that it kept popping into my head, maybe it was a follower of James, but it was that one group where they were basically Jews. And yes, they were persecuted very, very heavily until there's almost none of them left. So, but I kept thinking, I didn't say it, but I kept thinking that's the group that you were associated with. And I could see how, yeah, you'd have been left with nothing. You did all that. And then all the people you loved and who loved you, they were all gone. Thank you for the privilege of allowing me to do a reading for you.
Thank you very much. It was enlightening and yeah, thank you.